I don't tell this story often, mainly because when I do, people just stare at me like I'm crazy. But it happened, and no matter how much I try to rationalize it, to make sense of it, I can't. It started last winter. I was heading back to my hometown for the holidays. My car was in the shop, so I decided to take the train instead. A straight shot, overnight trip. I figured I'd sleep through most of it and wake up just in time to see my parents' smiling faces at the station. The station was mostly empty when I got there. A few stragglers with suitcases, a tired-looking couple huddled together on one of the benches. You know the vibe. Cold, quiet, that weird hum of fluorescent lights overhead. My train pulled in right on time. It was an old one, not one of those sleek, modern ones you see in the city. This one had character. Heavy steel doors, worn-out seats, and windows that fogged up as soon as you breathed near them. I stepped on, found my seat, and settled in. The car was nearly empty except for an older man a few rows up and a woman with a kid sitting way at the back. Perfect. I could spread out, maybe even get some sleep. The train started moving, and I watched the station lights blur into darkness. At some point, I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, I woke up to this weird feeling. It wasn't a noise or anything, just this heavy, suffocating sense that something was wrong. I glanced around the car. The old man was gone. So was the woman and the kid. The seats were empty. Must have switched cars, I thought. But then I noticed something else. The train wasn't stopping. I checked my watch. It was 3:12 a.m., and we were way past when we should have hit the next station. I leaned toward the window, expecting to see city lights or even a countryside blur. But all I saw was blackness, not night, not trees or hills or anything, just black, like the train was moving through an endless void. I told myself it was just a tunnel. Maybe I'd slept through an announcement. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Then I heard it, a faint clicking sound, like nails tapping against metal. It was coming from the far end of the car, where the doors connected to the next one. "Hello?" I called out, hoping it was a conductor or maybe another passenger. No response. Just the clicking, slow and steady, getting closer. I stood up, my legs shaky, and started walking toward the sound. Every step felt like a bad idea, like I was creeping toward something I wasn't supposed to see. When I reached the door, I hesitated. It had one of those small, square windows, and I could see into the next car. It was empty, but the clicking didn't stop. It was louder now, echoing like it was coming from all around me. I opened the door and stepped into the next car. That's when I saw it. The old man who'd been sitting a few rows up earlier, he was standing at the far end of the car, facing away from me. But something was off. His posture was wrong, like his head was tilted too far to the side, and his shoulders were hunched in this unnatural way. "Sir?" I called out. He turned around. Oh God, his face. His eyes were gone, just black pits, like someone had scooped them out. His mouth stretched too wide, like his jaw was unhinged. And there was this wet, gurgling noise coming from deep in his throat. He took a step toward me, and that clicking sound got louder. I realized it was coming from him. His fingers, long, thin, too many joints, were tapping against the metal railing as he moved. I bolted. I ran back to my car, slamming the door behind me, but the clicking didn't stop. It was in the car with me now, coming from everywhere. I turned, and the woman from earlier, the one with the kid, was sitting in one of the seats. but her head was hanging limp, her neck twisted at a horrifying angle. The kid was nowhere to be seen. "Stop," I whispered, more to myself than anything. "This isn't real. This isn't happening." The train suddenly screeched to a halt, throwing me forward into one of the seats. When I looked up, the car was filled with people, but they weren't alive. Some were missing faces, others had twisted limbs or holes where their chests should have been. They all stared at me with hollow, lifeless eyes, swaying gently with the motion of the train, even though it wasn't moving anymore. I scrambled to my feet, backing away until my hand hit something cold. I turned to see the door leading to the next car. It slid open on its own. Beyond it was nothing, just blackness, endless and yawning. And then I felt it. A hand on my shoulder, cold, bony, and impossibly strong. I don't remember much after that. I woke up the next morning on a bench at a train station I didn't recognize. My suitcase was gone. My phone was dead, and no one could tell me how I'd gotten there. I called my family, but they said the train I'd been on never arrived. It had derailed hours earlier, killing everyone on board. But I was there. I felt it. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed, I still hear that clicking sound. And I know it's looking for me.